Tough tactics to enforce the lockdown and 2 more coronavirus deaths in New South Wales. Tonight, police move on backpackers in the eastern suburbs, breaking the rules as a new testing clinic opens to battle the Bondi cluster. Qantas baggage handlers test positive, 100 workers affected, airport passengers ordered to self-isolate. Spotted 3 times breaching isolation, tonight he's back on the streets, released on bail. Another crew member stretchered off the Ruby Princess. The cruise operator's chief appeals for help. Off the road, taxi drivers call for an urgent financial lifeline to keep the industry alive. A shocking hit and run, the driver chased down by those who ran to help. And the Bulldogs accused of sex with schoolgirls have their playing rights cancelled.
Live from our Sydney headquarters, this is 7 News with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. New South Wales has recorded a tragic coronavirus first with 2 deaths in 2 days. As we adapt to new restrictions, the state's top cop has admitted his force has been heavy-handed. It follows images of police aggressively clearing Sydney-siders from beaches and parks. Officers will continue to crack down on foreign backpackers accused of spreading the virus through this Sydney's east.
They are the hostel hotspots. This one, the Mad Monkey at King's Cross. And within minutes of these pictures being broadcast on 7 News last night, police were knocking on the door with a please explain for management. No fines issued, the officers opting for a caution.
Thank you for your cooperation, guys.
Not so cooperative here. Within an hour of police breaking up this Bondi house party, it was back on. It's not just backpackers in police sights. This morning, officers in full riot gear move a father and son off the grass. New South Wales law enforcement. Police in the skies too. Across the city, a blitz is underway, and it's not only police but army personnel too. The full force of the state on display.
So what we just need to do is to make sure that you comply with Section 7 of the Public Health Act.
Enforcing the quarantines and the new lockdown laws.
Have a nice day, sir.
I think yesterday was a huge shock for everybody to come to terms with the new laws, with a new way of living for us.
Even a shock for the police commissioner, this morning admitting perhaps tactics were too aggressive.
Is that the sort of policing practices that we want to see in New South Wales? No, it's not.
Criticised as heavy-handed and police overreach, the new laws go far further than the Prime Minister had suggested on Sunday. In New South Wales, it's now illegal to sit in a park or stop for a coffee.
You shouldn't really be stationary anyway. You shouldn't really be sitting anywhere.
At Rushcutters today, site of yesterday's raids.
Technically what you're doing at the moment is wrong.
Yes, I didn't know that.
Some were still struggling to understand.
But I'm an old lady. I need to sit down every now and again.
It just seems silly to me.
Just a bit too over the top?
Oh, yes, it is.
Have your coffee, go for your run, do your exercise and go home. And then, that's just something that we have to do.
The Commissioner concedes if the laws aren't working, he is open to change.
I think if a couple of days' time we're seeing that sort of footage that's difficult to enforce, I would go to the Premier and say, we need to make some sensible changes.
It will all depend on the data. To date, 150 more cases to 2,182 and 2 deaths. One at Orange and a 95-year-old, another resident of the Baptist Care Home in Macquarie Park. As over on the beaches at Mona Vale, 3 staff from the I Love Pizza store have tested positive. Customers being urged to watch for symptoms. But the real focus remains Bondi, where they've opened a pop-up testing clinic at the famous pavilion, targeting Sydney's virus epicentre, the young itinerants worrying the older residents.
These backpackers are lovely people, but, they do tend to, shall we say, live close together.
I wasn't eligible to get tested in the past, but I thought if there's the opportunity today and I'm in a hot spot, why not?
And we've seen cases among backpackers, particularly related to parties and so on.
And Chris Reason joins me now from the harbour. Chris, fair to say there's still a fair deal of confusion out there tonight.
Good evening to you, Mark. Well, there's certainly a lot of confusion among government ranks this evening, especially on the activities of fishing and golf. This time last night, both of those were deemed illegal, but in the last 24 hours, they both experienced a change in reversal of fortunes. Now both are acceptable within the normal social distancing guidelines, of course. In the case of fishing, it's been deemed that it's a passive sport that enables people to feed themselves. It presents the irony, of course, though, that You can't actually stand on any beach in New South Wales at the moment unless, of course, from now on, you're holding a fishing rod. Mark.
Chris Reason, thank you. A Sydney man who repeatedly broke self-isolation laws has been set free by the courts. Matthew Stephan was arrested 3 times for being out and about when he should have been in lockdown. But he's told 7 News he has nothing to apologise for.
Released from custody with a clean bill of health, but a black mark against his name.
Do you understand that you may have put people's lives at risk?
Yeah, well, no comment.
Matthew Stephan flew in from Jordan 2 weeks ago and was ordered to self-isolate at his Western Sydney home. But he was caught wandering around Pagewood and that evening was found again in Pitt Street. He was fined $1,000.
I don't have the virus itself, so...
Have you been tested?
Yes, I have. The fact that people are in danger and that's completely ruled out.
You understand it's a law, though, to self-isolate?
I do.
At Camperdown, he was quarantined in a secure apartment, but was caught escaping and locked up to face court. Police claiming the accused has a total disregard for the law, and the accused actions have now put a large number of people at risk. The magistrate accepted the 30-year-old has a learning disorder. Stephan is the first person to be convicted over offences related to COVID-19. He was facing jail time but was instead handed a 12-month good behaviour bond and fined $600.
But I don't have to apologise because no one got hurt.
Natasha Squarey, 7 News.
There's now a national alert for anyone who's been to Adelaide Airport in the last 14 days. You must go into self-isolation and get your luggage cleaned if you show any symptoms. That's because 11 Qantas baggage handlers have tested positive, forcing 100 airport workers into lockdown.
Plane out of luck. Passengers from Sydney told their flight to Adelaide won't be happening.
We have arranged accommodation for you.
As the flight made an expensive high-altitude U-turn back to Sydney, Adelaide Airport was cleared out after 11 Qantas baggage handlers tested positive to coronavirus, in turn forcing 100 airport workers into quarantine.
Could end up with it, through baggage handling, yeah.
I think it's a good thing they found it.
Today there were temperature checks, but some passengers were taking no chances. The advice is if you've been to Adelaide Airport in the last 2 weeks, self-isolate, get tested and get your luggage cleaned if you have any symptoms. The big concern is how long has the virus been on the baggage? Experts say while COVID-19 can live in the air for up to 3 hours, it can survive on plastics, like baggage, for up to 3 days. Qantas in the airport claim cleaning has been stepped up, but unions say it's too late.
The greed is taking over everything. They don't care about the travelling public. They don't care about their workers.
There are cracks too on our front line. 2 Border Force officers, one from Sydney, the other from Queensland, testing positive. ABF has confirmed contact testing for staff and other officers is underway. Peter Fegan, 7 News.
Growing unemployment has quickly exposed the plight of overseas students, once also casual workers, now jobless and not eligible for government support. Many could be forced home to regions ravaged by coronavirus, with some countries not even allowing their own citizens to return.
Spanish-Colombian student and waitress Joana Maria Gilboleno has lived in Australia 5 years. She lost her job a month ago and doesn't know how she'll keep up with tuition bills to retain her student visa.
No options. That is no option for us. If I don't pay this $6,000, basically my visa is done.
If she can't stay, she'll have to go back to Spain.
And my uncle told me, no, don't come back here. This is getting worse and worse.
Jade is another international student who also doesn't qualify for the JobKeeper subsidy, even though she's held her casual job for 2 years.
I think they should help, of course. They should.
She can't return to France because her stepfather has tested positive to COVID-19 and, like here, there's no work.
If I go home, I don't think I'll be allowed to see them.
Those with working holiday visas who've lost their sponsorships have also fallen through the cracks. Their only options now to find another job or return home. Some might lack sympathy for foreign workers, but they are essential to Australia's food supply.
We rely on backpackers really bad.
Guy Gaeta is an apple and cherry farmer who needs up to 60 pickers to harvest his crops.
Oh, they come from Italy, France, Germany.
Now they can't get here, and those already here can't travel interstate. The irony is, after the drought, farmers are expecting bumper crops.
You start to worry, are we going to have people to pick these cherries?
Tom Saker, 7 News.
The operators of the virus-plagued cruise liner Ruby Princess say the state government has a moral obligation to look after its crew. The ship is still lingering off Sydney, last night sending another man ashore with virus symptoms.
In what's become a nightly occurrence, a mercy dash, an 8th crew member from the Ruby Princess is stretchered from the stricken cruise ship, given emergency medical treatment, once again escorted by police as paramedics take him to hospital for specialist care.
Where is the Premier's responsibility? This is a catastrophic situation.
It's the 4th time in as many days that Water Police and New South Wales paramedics have been called out to help the ship.
People can't be brought in every night under the cover of darkness.
The Police Commissioner today softening his stance. Yesterday ripping away the welcome mat, telling foreign vessels to go home. Today, it's a balancing act.
It's all about protecting those ICU beds with ventilators for the New South Wales people.
2,700 passengers were allowed to get off the cruise ship without going into isolation when it docked almost 2 weeks ago. 1,600 passengers from Australia, 1,100 from the rest of the world. Yesterday we knew more than 1 in 4 of the Australians who got off the ship here came down with coronavirus. Today we've been told that number's gone up yet again, but none of the health departments are releasing the updated figures. And still, no one will say how many overseas passengers who got off here have come down with the virus. Late today, this video released by the head of Carnival Cruises.
It is difficult for people and businesses who derive their livelihood and jobs from cruising to see it demonised in the way it has been.
They insist the crew be allowed to go ashore for medical attention. Evan Batten, 7 News.
Individuals or businesses who send Australian medical supplies overseas could be jailed under tough new laws announced by the federal government. Thousands of critical supplies, including face masks and bottles of hand sanitizer, are already being seized at the border and will now go into our national stockpile.
Searching for coronavirus contraband. This Border Force officer detects a suspicious package. Inside, face masks. Boxes of them.
If anybody in this country thinks that they can smuggle critical health supplies out, think again.
More than 69,000 face masks have been seized from 440 consignments since March 18, most of them heading to one country.
These are organised crime gangs, some of which have links to Chinese interests.
But some of the shipments have been organised by established companies. The Chinese-backed property giant Greenland Group sent bulk supplies of face masks, hazmat suits and headache tablets back to China in February as the corona crisis there reached its peak. But under new laws enforced on Monday, those caught doing that now will face heavy fines and possibly jail.
We're going to put you into forced isolation. We're going to isolate you from society.
All the goods seized will be redirected to the National Medical Stockpile for use in our hospitals.
We have to put Australia first, I think, at this stage, and there were some announcements over the weekend in relation to that, so that's now against the law.
As the parties agree to return here to Parliament next Wednesday for a pared-back session to pass the $130 billion JobKeeper allowance, hoping to do that in just one day. Mark Riley, 7 News.
The Premier has called on business owners across the state to get in contact, saying she'll pay for any help they can provide in the fight against COVID-19. The call to arms reminiscent of a wartime plea, with her government asking businesses to stop what they're doing and start making essential supplies.
In the battle for lives and livelihoods, the government wants everyone in on the war effort.
Today is a call to arms to New South Wales businesses to get in the game, come and talk to us about what you can do, and we'll want to purchase off you.
Just like in the World Wars, authorities want to mobilise the private sector to produce critical supplies.
Consider retooling to help supply those additional things we'll need in coming months.
Putting the call out for local manufacturing of hand sanitisers, examination gloves, disinfectants, soaps, masks, eyewear, medical medical gowns and paper products.
It's important that we all sort of dig in and do what we can to help everybody in this time of crisis.
Companies like Cavanagh Industries say they've got the capabilities to help produce what's needed. Others already are. Bricks distillers swapping rum for sanitizer.
This was never our intention. I wish I could say that I woke up, with a passion for hand sanitizer.
And swimwear for face masks.
Might help people if they've got it on, stop touching their face.
This initiative isn't just about meeting medical needs, but it's also about giving businesses another revenue stream during these tough times and ultimately keeping more people in jobs.
Keeping the lights on and keeping people employed and providing a service.
Anyone interested should register on the New South Wales Government website. Andrew Denny, 7 News.
While other companies offer vital relief, Transurban will raise tolls on its Sydney roads by up to 8 cents after claiming the virus has caused traffic to drop by 29%. The Cross-City Tunnel will jump 4 cents, 2 cents on the Lane Cove Tunnel, 7 cents for a full trip on the M2 and up to 8 cents on the Eastern Distributor. The price rise won't affect West Connects. The local share market closed on a positive note after yesterday's stumble. Finance editor Gemma Acton joins me again. Gemma, a good result from the ASX.
Yes, Mark, a solid start to the new quarter saw the ASX 200 finish up by 3.6%, closing at its highest level in a fortnight. Energy stocks, which lost nearly half of their value in the first 3 months of the year, led the charge today. This came after oil prices bounced back up off 18-year lows overnight. And in other news, regulators have written to super funds telling them to make sure they're ready to accommodate members wanting to access up to $20,000 of their super early. Mark.
OK, Gemma, thank you. Americans have been told to brace for a devastating fortnight ahead, with thousands of deaths each day as the nation heads towards its expected peak of this COVID crisis. The White House today laid out its sombre projections as the US continues to outstrip other nations in new cases.
As the subway sits empty, the streets are lined with stretchers. New York traffic now a sea of ambulances. Central Park a field hospital. As outside real hospitals, the growing number of dead are shielded by cardboard as they're lifted onto a refrigerated truck. Across town, 5 months out from the US Open, this famous stadium at Flushing Meadows is being transformed into a triage centre.
These tennis courts symbolize what we're all going through right now.
And what's to come. Americans today told to prepare for 2 weeks of hell. New White House modelling predicting 2,500 deaths a day, peaking in 14 days.
It's very much focused on the next 2 weeks and the stark reality of what this virus will do as it moves through communities.
The death toll already higher than September 11, projected to surpass American casualties in the Vietnam War.
This is going to be a rough 2 or 3 weeks. This is going to be one of the roughest 2 or 3 weeks we've ever had in our country.
As this virus continues its march across America, infecting every state, Donald Trump's been fending off sharp criticism. He could have done more to prepare. Though today he did concede he was distracted at the start of this crisis by his own impeachment trial.
I got impeached. I think, I certainly devoted a little time to thinking about it, right?
His attention now firmly focused on a national crisis extending to the seas. A mayday call from Guam, 100 sailors infected on board the aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt. The captain now calling for a mass evacuation. In Washington, D.C., Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
Sydney's taxi industry is calling for an airline-style rescue package, saying without a financial lifeline, it's the end of the road for thousands of drivers. Already, wheelchair cabs are being mothballed, leaving some of our most vulnerable unable to get around.
This entire warehouse is full of wheelchair-accessible taxis, 150 vehicles spilling out in a rank display.
Not by choice, it's by force. We weren't given an option. I have no option.
His drivers have joined the unemployment queues, sole traders eligible for the JobKeeper payment. They relied on the able-bodied passengers to make a livable wage, leaving many disabled passengers without the means to travel.
People need them to get out to do their shopping. They need to get to and from health and medical appointments. And there are some people who are still working.
Got it. As providers of wheelchair-accessible taxis park their vehicles, ride shares can't provide this service. There are 4 million Australians living with a disability. 32%, or about 1.4 million, have a profound or severe disability. These taxis are their lifeline. The operator of these ones says without a Qantas-style package, many of these taxis will rot here. Each vehicle has running costs of up to $920 a week, plus the $100,000 it costs to fit them out.
We are calling on the New South Wales Government to step in immediately to provide assistance to these operators.
They also need a package ready for when the lockdown is lifted to get these taxis and their drivers back on the road.
There's no chance of us ever coming back from this if we don't get the support that we need now from the government.
Transport New South Wales says it's working on a solution to ensure the continuation of this vital service. Brian Seymour, 7 News.
And we'll have more on the pandemic very soon, but in other news, 2 Bulldog stars have had their contracts torn up over a sex scandal in Port Macquarie involving 2 schoolgirls. Let's go live to Chief League Reporter Michelle Bishop. Michelle, the NRL and Bulldogs have made it very clear these are serious breaches.
Mark, NRL boss Todd Greenberg has described the behaviour of Corey Harawira-Naera and Jaden Ockenball as inexcusable. He says he's been left with absolutely no choice but to cancel their registration indefinitely. The players had been stood down by the Bulldogs after they had sex with 2 students following a school visit in Port Macquarie in February. A number of teammates became aware of the pair's actions, and then that soon became common knowledge and the Bulldogs took action. Today, head office ripped up their playing contracts, and 2 of the game's rising stars now face an indefinite stint out of the NRL. Both players have been offered counselling, and the Bulldogs have also reached out to the 2 girls involved. But Mark, the message is clear. Any serious breach of the code of conduct, you cross that line and you're simply not welcome in the NRL. Mark.
OK, Michelle, thank you. Time now for a check on our weather with David Brown.
Thanks, Fergo. Well, it's been a showery day, mainly over central and western parts of our city. Regular bursts of rain just streaming in from the north. In fact, our weather camera network captured some rain showers passing over Blacktown and surrounding suburbs. 15 millimetres in the local rain gauge, but not a drop in the city. As we go to the latest radar scan, you'll notice, yes, we've got a return to fine conditions right across our part of the world. Statewide, though, different story. Upstream, yes, statewide soaking rain through the western half. Some storms are in the mix as well. Of course, that system is heading our way. It arrives tomorrow. Yes, rain and thunderstorms moving through. Another burst is forecast to push through on Friday. And, of course, I'll have the local forecast in detail, top of the hour, Fergo.
We will see you then, David. Thank you. A taxi driver has been arrested accused of a shocking hit and run. Next, the witnesses who chased him down and his staggering excuse. Also, firefighters battle a blaze at an abandoned Inner West bowling club. Not immune, Sydney's housing market takes a hit. How low could prices go? 1 year on, a moving tribute to a young tradie killed in a scaffolding collapse. And in sport, the NRL stars who are entering the workforce as the harsh reality of the virus crisis hits home. Welcome back. Dozens of firefighters have responded to a blaze which destroyed an abandoned bowling club in Drummoyne. 40 calls were made to 000 after flames began to rip through the building on Westbourne Street around lunchtime. Crews searched the club, which hasn't been used for 5 years, but thankfully no one was inside. Investigators have been brought in to work out how the fire started. A woman is lucky to be alive tonight after being run down by a taxi in the heart of the city. Shocked witnesses stopped to help, but some were forced to take action when the driver took off.
Shortly after midday in central Sydney, a group crosses the busy intersection of Elizabeth and Foveaux Streets when one is left behind. A woman is smacked by a silver taxi. She hits the bonnet and tumbles, but the driver does not stop to help and appears to run her over as he takes off. A local named Charlie chases him up the street and forces him to pull over. The 61-year-old is held until police arrive. Witnesses saying the man appeared dazed. They also say the woman appeared to be in immense pain, but fortunately she suffered only minor injuries. Restrictions on public activity meant the streets near Central Station were a lot quieter than usual. Fewer people meant there was less risk to the public. The driver was brought here to St Vincent's Hospital claiming he'd blacked out. As he was being checked over, mandatory tests were taken to check whether there was any drugs or alcohol in his system. He's being questioned by police, with charges expected to be laid. Leonie Ryan, 7 News.
Australia's brief real estate boom is rapidly cooling, with the housing market now gripped by fears of unemployment and recession. Latest figures out today show a very modest increase in prices in March, maybe the last we'll see for a long while.
It's the new reality for real estate. Private inspections, no open houses or on-site auctions. You can bid online, but last weekend, 35% of homes sold prior to auction. An eagerness to settle reflected in the latest CoreLogic report. Prices almost flatlined in March, Sydney gaining 1.1%, but Hobart falling by 0.2%, for a national average gain of just 0.7%. A further slowdown is inevitable as sellers hesitate and buyers play hardball.
The impact on values will be less clear, but probably seeing slowed growth momentum and potentially price falls in the coming months.
Driven by rising unemployment and falling confidence.
Yeah, it's certainly tougher than it was even just a week ago.
Some predict falls of up to 20%. But don't expect a fire sale in prime locations.
We think that there's not going to be the same wave of panic selling that we may have seen in previous downturns.
What's more likely is fewer properties coming to market.
If you don't have to buy or sell in this market, you're probably not going to transact.
The million-dollar question is how long the uncertainty will last.
As long as people keep their jobs and we come out of this pandemic reasonably quickly, this is manageable.
Gemma Acton, 7 News.
Family members of apprentice Christopher Casaniti, who was killed in a scaffolding collapse at Macquarie Park, have paid tribute to their son and brother a year on from his death. His parents laid flowers at a memorial near the construction site where the 18-year-old was killed. His two brothers also paid tribute to the teenager. His mother calls him her guardian angel. There have been battles at the supermarket. Now toilet paper panic is taking another costly twist. Next, why there's been a surge in plumbing problems linked to the outbreak. Also, one state's extreme measures to stop the spread of COVID-19. The super new flu jab rolls out, free for the vulnerable, how to secure your shot. And puzzling times, the boom in old-fashioned family fun to beat the boredom. Welcome back. Sydney's toilet paper panic buying is now being linked to a surge in blockages in the city's sewer system. In the last month, there's been a 22% rise in the number of blockages linked to an increased use in wipes and paper towels.
There may be a relationship between the availability of toilet paper and the increase in sewer blockages that we've seen.
Sydney Water spends more than $8 million a year clearing blockages. Western Australia is taking coronavirus isolation to the extreme, dividing the state into 8 regions and setting up checkpoints between them. Perth, as well as 7 regional areas, will be separated to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Police and military personnel will man checkpoints, and anyone caught travelling between regions without a legitimate reason could be fined $50,000. The Russian president may have been exposed to COVID-19 during a media briefing on his country's response to the pandemic. As thousands die every day across Europe, including the once fit and healthy, the latest victims being mourned are children aged just 12 and 13.
Just outside Barcelona, doctors and nurses taking every precaution they can as they try to treat some of the 94,000 people with COVID-19 in Spain. The intensive care units are overloaded. But everyone can be saved. 849 people died in 24 hours here, the deadliest day so far. A record number of victims in Britain too. 381 in a day, nearly 1,800 in all. Among the dead, Christopher and Isabel Vallely, married 53 years. They died in the same hospital room in Belfast, 12 hours apart. And Luca Di Nicola, a healthy 19-year-old who died 30 minutes after being admitted to a London hospital with coronavirus.
The increase in the number of deaths is deeply shocking, disturbing, moving.
But the number of cases and deaths here in the UK and in many other countries is being underreported because often only those who test positive and die in hospital are being counted, not those who pass away at home. Boris Johnson is leading the country via video link. This the first ever British cabinet meeting where no minister was actually in the cabinet room. In Moscow, the lockdown is taking hold, but the doctor who showed President Vladimir Putin one hospital's coronavirus preparations has himself tested positive. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
And if the coronavirus pandemic wasn't worrying enough, there's another problem looming, the expected arrival of seasonal influenza. We're all being urged to get a flu jab earlier than ever before.
Roll up early. That's the advice of doctors as we approach flu season in the time of coronavirus.
This year with the coronavirus, if we did have an outbreak of the flu, the hospitals will be overrun.
The vaccine does not protect against COVID-19, but there are fears about the possibility of contracting both illnesses at the same time.
We anticipate that, like many other respiratory illnesses, that yes, you should be able to get both at once, and obviously we're trying to avoid that.
The government has ordered 13.5 million doses of the influenza vaccine, including 4 million for people over the age of 65. The shot is free for children under 5, pregnant women, people over 65 and those with an underlying medical condition.
Everyone should be thinking about getting their flu vaccination, no matter how old or how young you are.
Last year, Australia experienced one of its worst flu seasons, with around 300,000 cases nationally. Doctors fear if those figures were repeated, it could cripple the health system already battling another crisis.
People have got to understand that if you do get influenza and you do get sick, you use exactly the same resources as a person with coronavirus who's in hospital.
The flu shots became available this week. It is okay to leave your home to get one. There are extra precautions in place in medical centres and pharmacies, but patients are being asked to call ahead and make an appointment. Miley Hogan, 7 News.
Tradespeople are being told to put social distancing first to help keep their family and friends safe and their industry alive. A new campaign is urging Australians 1.2 million tradies to stay 1.5 metres apart.
Please, we implore you, do the right thing by your mates, your families and the industry so we can stay as an essential industry.
They're also being encouraged to record social distancing pictures and upload them to social media. They're brain teasers, crowd pleasers and right now the ultimate boredom busters. Jigsaw puzzles are having a big revival as many turn their home into a game zone.
It's a leisure activity which requires a lot of patience and focus, finding that perfect fit piece by piece. Now those with a lot of time on their hands are reconnecting with the age-old classic.
I think it's a wonderful thing that families have discovered this wonderful outlet.
Even the Prime Minister.
I can assure you over the next few months we're going to consider those jigsaw puzzles absolutely essential.
Foot traffic has almost disappeared at Hobbyco in the city, but online sales are through the roof.
We're up about 350% on where we were this time in the month of March last year. We're packing as fast as we can to get the product out.
It's not just jigsaw puzzles in high demand, board games and trampolines are too, as families find ways to keep children busy. Recent studies have also found over 50s who do puzzles have sharper brains, and there's something very satisfying about finishing one.
At the end of that project, they've got something they can actually frame if they like.
And who doesn't need a small win? Jessica Ridley, 7 News.
Without a jigsaw, the new virus lockdown rules mean thousands of children and parents are stuck at home, many running out of ideas to keep busy. Next, from online zoos, free concerts and extra data, we'll tell you how to keep the boredom at bay. Also, more help for Airbnb hosts to help cover COVID cancellations. The scientists race to develop a vaccine, what we know about how the virus attacks the body.
Passing showers today, soaking rain tomorrow. Details soon.
Checking the markets now, and as we reported, there's been a positive start to the second quarter with the ASX 200 closing 181 points higher. The top companies all finished in the green, the energy sector outperforming most, recording strong gains despite weakness in overseas markets. And our dollar is buying 60.77 US cents. Fuel prices are continuing a steady drop across Sydney. The average now is $1.18.1 a litre. Regular unleaded seems to be the cheapest in our west, just 84.9 cents at Fairfield and 85.5 at Villawood. A man will face Parramatta Court tomorrow for allegedly attacking his 72-year-old female partner with a meat tenderiser. Police also charged the 81-year-old with intent to murder and assault for another alleged attack on an 87-year-old man at Ermington yesterday. They were all taken to Westmead Hospital. The accused was refused bail. Airbnb hosts will benefit from the company's $400 million coronavirus relief fund. The cash will pay out 25% of the price of cancelled bookings until the end of May. Everyone who booked for these times will get a full refund. As the purse strings tighten, we're all looking for more ways to ease the financial pressure any way we can. And there's plenty on offer to help out, from free additional data to tax refunds for your home office, even an online zoo visit that doesn't cost a cent.
Bringing the zoo to you.
Where's the tomato?
So Nugget is our...
This is Taronga TV.
So biggest lizard in the entire world.
Free virtual tours of the Mossman and Western Plains zoos launched today.
Come and join us for the feed.
Of course, a visit to Taronga, you only get the tip of the iceberg. With Taronga TV, we're going to take you behind the scenes.
At the Opera House, the show must go online. Classic concerts and never-before-seen video streamed nightly, starting with Missy Higgins tonight. To cope with surging internet usage, most providers are offering free extra data and downloads. The NBN has also opened up more bandwidth.
We've never been more dependent on our telcos than we are at the moment, so it's vital we get that extra data from them and they think about how they can help consumers through this crisis.
For so many of us, the internet at home is now just as important for your job as it is for entertainment, and since it is or has become a work expense, you will be able to claim at least some of the cost back at tax time, along with anything else you might need for your home office. Any new equipment worth less than $300, depreciation on items worth more than $300, even electricity and other running costs.
We're talking, hundreds of dollars, depending on how much people are working from home.
Alex Hart, 7 News.
We're used to seeing April Fool's Day pranks about now, but Virgin Australia assures us this is not one. Staff collecting some precious cargo, thousands of toilet rolls from 100 of its grounded planes and storage facilities to share with the needy. They'll be distributed by the Salvation Army.
We think that 2020 has pranked us enough, so we're turning April Fool's Day on its head.
Kleenex is also matching the donation. It's no secret the coronavirus is a serious disease, but what actually happens if you're infected? We break down what each stage of the illness can look like, as well as show you what's going on inside your body. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News. But now Mel is here with sport. Hi there, Mel. A number of NRL players are joining the workforce.
Hello, Fergo. Yes, some are actively working already, while others are looking for work to keep them busy. Details up next. Plus, Eels legend Brett Kenny joins the growing chorus of past and present players questioning where all the NRL's money has gone. And we go one-on-one with the FFA boss as another A-League club stands down its players. Welcome back. Well, as negotiations between the NRL and the Players Association over proposed pay cuts drag on, players are beginning to enter the workforce. The coronavirus-enforced shutdown is hammering every level of rugby league, and even the game's biggest names are not immune.
From finding the try line...
Bateman! First try in Canberra colours!
...to finding a new line of work. Rugby league was the only job John Bateman had ever known until Tuesday, when he started labouring on a mate's building site.
Pretty nervous, obviously, with the pay cuts at the moment. You don't know when your next wage is going to be coming and stuff like that.
Fellow Englishman Elliot Whitehead is working on a Canberra farm and his hands are showing wear and tear. The Clive Churchill medalist from the grand final less than 6 months ago, Jack Whiten, is actively seeking work. We've even seen some forward thinking from Roosters duo Victor Radley and Luke Keary. The pair went on a letterbox drop, offering to paint houses and mow lawns. Yesterday, they picked up a concreting job. Juggling work with rugby league was just a fact of life for Eels legend Brett Kenny back in the halcyon days of the 80s.
I often used to say to people, my massaging was getting in and out of a truck on a Monday morning.
and after the Sunday game.
The players are yet to sign off on a deal for pay cuts. They remain furious at being asked to take a much bigger reduction than NRL executives.
There's got to be a lot of questions asked, and there's got to be a lot of answers given as to who has been getting all this money.
Michelle Bishop, 7 News.
Well, more than $5 million in prize money will be up for grabs on day one of the championships at Randwick on Saturday. Mark Newnham's stable star Shadow Hero is one of the leading contenders for the $1 million Australian Derby. The gelding is out to bounce back after being beaten by the favourite Castelvecchio last start.
Can't wait. He's in the best condition possible we can have him in, so bring it on.
You'll see day one of the championships live and free here on 7 on Saturday. Well, the Wanderers are the latest A-League club to stand down players and staff as football also attempts to wade through the coronavirus crisis. New FFA boss James Johnson says clubs and players will be ready to play when given the green light. I spoke with him today. Just months into the top job and already navigating the game through its biggest crisis, James Johnson believes despite all the upheaval, there are positives.
I think we're going to have a great opportunity to really reset a lot of different parts of the game. And I look at this period as an opportunity to get some of those things right.
Perth, Brisbane, the Mariners and today the Wanderers have all stood down their players and staff. Johnson wants to ensure the relationships between clubs and players doesn't get ugly.
We don't want the players or the clubs dealing with this in an aggressive way publicly.
League leaders Sydney FC were on track for a record-breaking season, but that pales into insignificance now.
There are much bigger and short-term challenges for both our club, the game, the community, like I said before, that are going to take precedent over conversations around silverware.
Johnson is confident the A-League broadcast contract with Fox Sports will be honoured and was quick to dispel any concerns for the Matildas or the W League.
I'm not worried. I think that women's football has a tremendous future.
And with world football at a standstill, the great Pep Guardiola gets the gold medal, the message of the day.
We'll come back from this stronger, better, kinder and a little bit fatter. Stay inside, stay safe.
Well said. And it's not very often that you see a 10-year-old win a national title. But that's what happened in the UK when the pandemic forced an Olympic qualifying skateboard event to be cancelled. Skateboard England instead held a virtual national championship and 10-year-old Roxana Howlett was crowned the winner. Skateboarders submitted routines performed from home and a public vote decided the winner. Very impressive, Fergo. And as someone who broke their arm attempting a skateboard, I say don't try that at home.
Not a sprained ankle insight, Mel.
No.
Good on you, thank you.
Thanks.
Now, we've certainly been bombarded with information on COVID-19 in recent weeks, so much of it highlighting how serious this virus is. But how does it actually affect your body and what causes the symptoms? 7's Melissa Doyle explains.
In the first few days, you may think you have a flu, but deep inside your body, the COVID-19 virus is already on the attack. Symptoms can take up to 14 days to develop. Almost always a fever and dry cough. This is because COVID-19 is a respiratory disease, meaning it will start and end with the lungs. In the early days of infection, the virus invades lung cells, causing inflammation. By this stage, your body's immune system has kicked in and is fighting back. Immune cells attack the virus, and within a week, 80% of people will usually have recovered. Some are not so lucky. By this stage, people with severe and critical cases may have developed acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS, an illness which occurs when fluid fills the lungs. The inflammation caused triggers a massive immune response, but the body can go overboard. Killer cells attack anything in their path, destroying the virus, but also wiping out healthy lung tissue. In critical cases, patients will require advanced life support, but even that may not be enough. ARDS is often fatal and is the cause of most COVID-19 related deaths. But only 6% of cases reach this stage. And as health authorities across the globe work to develop a vaccine, for now, our best defence is to prevent infection in the first place through social distancing.
Thank you, Mel. Dozens of wild goats have overrun a village in northern Wales following the introduction of coronavirus lockdowns. The herd, which normally lives in nearby hills, was recorded running through the deserted streets and going into houses. Some locals aren't too happy with the new kids on the block after their gardens were trampled. David is back now with the latest forecast. Brownie, speaking of the gardens, some welcome showers today.
Oh, indeed, Fergo, but there is some soaking rain on tomorrow. Also good for the garden. That forecast straight after the break.
In this crisis, 7 News is the one news service breaking down the facts. Your most definitive source. Turn to 7 News.
Tonight, 7 News headlines: a tragic coronavirus first with 2 deaths in 2 days as police continue to crack down on foreign backpackers accused of spreading the virus in Sydney's east. Anyone who's been to Adelaide Airport in the last 2 weeks is being ordered to self-isolate if symptoms develop after 11 Qantas baggage handlers tested positive. The operator of the Ruby Princess cruise liner is begging for 1,100 crew members to be allowed to return home. And taxi drivers are pleading for a government rescue package to help save the industry. Now, with the very latest on Sydney's weather, here's David.
Thanks, Fergo. Passing showers today, mainly in our west. Rain and thunderstorms building tomorrow. Now, today's top, very comfortable indeed. 24.2 degrees. That's how I like it, following an overnight low there of 20.3. To the suburbs, it was a touch warmer inland. We've had some good rainfall totals today, around 10 to 20 millimetres reported through central and western parts of the Sydney Basin. As we go to the satellite, well, we've still got some pockets of showery weather affecting parts of the coast, but upstream, this is the main event. Areas of rain and thunderstorms associated with this trough gradually heading our way. The trough is expected to reach coastal areas tomorrow. Check out the vast areas of rain unfolding as the day wears on. Good soaking falls for a large part of our state. But nationwide tomorrow, Melbourne too will get some showery weather. A top of around 21 degrees ahead of that change. On the other side of the change, it's warm and sunny at Brisbane. Look at that, 29 degrees. Warm also through the tropical north of Queensland, around the low 30s. Back home, we're now tracking areas of rain and thunderstorms heading towards the coast as the day wears on. Heavy falls possible around the central and southern ranges, most of that unfolding during the afternoon and into the evening. Closer in, becoming wet tomorrow. Periods of rain and we might see the odd thunderstorm as well. Believe it or not, though, temperatures much like today, many centres reaching the mid-20s at best. To the coast, winds still out of the north, running at around about 15 to 20 knots for a good part of the day, whipping up moderate seas. For the city, rain developing tomorrow. I think most of the activity happening from around about mid-morning and then progressing throughout the day. A forecast top there at 24 degrees. Let's go to that 7-day outlook. There it is on your screen. Friday, look, I think it'll be fine in the morning, but rain and storms developing during the afternoon. Some big falls possible, and then a return to fine and sunny weather right across the weekend. That's the latest weather. Fergo.
Righto, David, thank you. That is 7 News for this Wednesday. The latest is next, and I'll have a special bulletin just after 10 o'clock. I'm Mark Ferguson from all the team. I hope you have a great night.